Aquarius, your prayers are about to be answered. At least that is the message I am getting for you while tuning into your energy, and have already had a lot of interesting synchronicities while doing this. I started hitting record at 333, which to me is a number of manifestation. It also represents trinities, so things like body, mind, heart, or body, mind, spirit. And I really get the sense that there is a strong angelic connection. Now, when I do these readings, I always invoke the angels at the beginning, and I really felt like I needed to sit with them a little bit longer. And that is when I got the message, your prayer is about to be answered. Your angels are listening, your guides are listening, whoever it is that you work with in the spiritual realm, whether that's ancestors or disincarnate beings, they are hearing you and they want you to know that. So whatever it is that you're struggling with, whatever is weighing on your heart, it is known and it is being answered right now. So that needs to come as a huge, huge reassurance to you. I really get the sense too that your angels might be testing you, or your spirit guides, or again, whoever it is that you work with. There may be something here where they're trying to see if you're willing to go to the next level. And it's interesting. I had kind of a personal story that I felt like it was important to share. And if you wanted to skip ahead, you're welcome to do that. But I really feel like there is a synchronicity here, because before I started my channel years ago, I was living in another state and I was pretty heartbroken. I was kind of basically almost destitute. I had nothing, and I was about to come home, and it felt like I had failed in sort of my travels and in my journey. But I also knew on a deeper level, I was being called to come back here and to actually go and do this work. And one night I was sitting outside of a coffee shop and I met a man. He was indigenous, a little bit older, beautiful long hair. And he was actually asking me if I could help him make a GoFundMe, because his dog had run away and was taken in by animal services, and he basically needed to pay the fee by the next day before his dog would be taken away. And I was sort of sitting there like, well, he didn't really necessarily seem to know how like GoFundMe worked. I was very skeptical it could even happen. I was honestly half tempted to even just give him the money that he needed, because it was only something like $60 or $50 or something. But at the time I really had nothing. Okay. So every little bit helped, especially since I was about to move across the country. So I didn't really feel like I was in a place to help him, but we did end up talking for hours, actually. And we both talked about kind of our clairvoyant experiences, being connected to spirit. And it was just a really oddly bonding sort of conversation to have with someone completely randomly. And he told me about a daughter that he had. And it didn't sound like they were even really talking. So I don't know if there was like a strained relationship between the two of them or what exactly that story was, but it seemed like there was some sort of tension. But he had told me that when she was younger, he always felt like she was being tested by angels. They would come and give him tests. And one example he had, like, he went to a grocery store, he went to like 7-Eleven, and he bought a slushie for his daughter. And he stepped away for a moment and came back, and she didn't have it anymore. And he's like, well, what happened? And she told him, there was a man who came up to me who asked me for this slushie. He looked very hot, or I don't even think he asked, he just came up to her, and she gave it to him, and he thanked her, and he vanished, at least according to his daughter. And she said, I think I met an angel. And he responded, I think you've always been interacting with angels, and I think you've always been passing their tests. And there was something about that almost felt like I was sort of being tested in this moment too. Like, am I going to help this man? Am I not? And, you know, the evening kind of ended. We sort of parted ways. He did give me some contact information to get a hold of his daughter, because he didn't even have a phone. He lived without electricity. He lived outside of the city I was in at the time. And lived very close to the land, from what I understand. So I basically go to bed that night, I wake up, and I'm just racked with this guilt, but also like, I need to help this guy. And so on my way to work, I ended up texting the number for his daughter, and I'm like, hey, I just want you to know I'm paying, I met your dad, I'm paying this fee so your dad can come pick him up whenever you talk to him, or you can come pick up the dog or whatever. And I get to the pound, and I'm actually told that someone had already paid for the fee, and the guy had already picked up his dog. So, you know, I ended up not needing to pay anything. I was just really grateful that he got his dog, and it almost felt like I was glad that I was at least willing to do that. And I had texted a friend about it on my way to work. And the weird thing is, I didn't like talk about all of these different details. I kind of just sort of briefly was like, I met this man, it was really odd sort of spiritual connection, and he asked me to help get his dog back. So I tried to do that, and it was already taken care of. And my friend responded right before I walked into work, I can't wait to hear more about this angelic interaction, which was very, very interesting. And I actually at the time worked with autistic children. I did skills building with them. And so I'm walking in, I sit down with my little dude. I loved working with him. He was so sweet. Not very verbal either. You know, would kind of vocally stim a lot and sort of say the same phrases over and over again. And I'm just thinking about this interaction while I'm kind of working with this little boy, and I swear there were just moments he was telepathic. Like, he could just pick up on what I was thinking or what I was feeling, and at one point he literally just looks up at me and says angel. And then his mom's like, oh, that's funny, he never says that. And again, he says angel, and he says it over and over again. And I'm like kind of fighting back tears because I'm just in like this really vulnerable state in my life. And I felt like it was just this confirmation that I was connecting to an angel. And a lot of that interaction actually did really sort of validate my own experiences. And it's sort of why I started the work I did, or at least one of the pieces. And it truly felt like I was meant to go in that direction afterwards. So there may be an experience like this for you, Aquarius. There may be an angel in disguise. Now, I did pull a couple of animal cards as well for you. And one of the other synchronous things is that I knew the cosmic egg was going to come out. I could just feel it. This is the crown chakra card. So again, that spiritual connection, that hope, that faith. And this is kind of why I feel like you're at this stage right now where you're having this moment, like I was just describing, the story I was just describing, of like sudden synchronicity, sudden connection, something unexplainable, but it feels very, very affirming to you. And the other animal I got was really interesting because I had the spider. And this tells me that you've been weaving a web for a while. You've been manifesting something, you've been calling it in, and you've kind of been waiting for something to come to you. I actually feel like whatever it is that you're doing right now, Aquarius, you are about to have some sort of breakthrough or progress, or there is going to be some sort of reward. You are about to catch something in your web. So I really do feel like whatever it is that you have been working on, there is some seriously divine intervention almost kind of coming in that is going to be helping you or delivering something to you. So I do want to get into the tarot cards for you. I hope this story wasn't boring. I hope it was at least kind of interesting. I've had lots of wild kind of spiritual stories like that, and maybe someday I'll sort of talk about them in a separate video, but you know, let me know if that's interesting to you. Anyways, Aquarius, while I am shuffling the cards for you, I do just want to invite you to take a moment to pause this video, maybe even give yourself a moment to feel the energy in your body so you can know what resonates for you and what is meant for somebody else. I really encourage you to trust your own intuition and discernment here. If you've been following around for some time and have not done so already, I really encourage you to hit that like and subscribe button as well as that bell notification so you can always stay up to date with what's in the cards for you. I am actually very likely to rebrand soon, so that way you know you are still kind of in the know. And I do have links in the description for my website where you can book personal readings or distance energy healing sessions with me. So what are the messages that we have for Aquarius at this time? Oh, and these are also timeless readings as well. If I do mention anything about the astrology, you can either look back at the time of this recording, which we are at the very end of May of 2025, just about to go into June. And you can kind of look back at the time maybe as sort of a reference point to whenever you're watching it now, or maybe there is energy that is playing out in the present, regardless of when you're watching, that is still applicable to your life. The time and energy is very fluid here. It's up to you to discern what is meant for you and how it applies to your own life. Ooh, okay, so what is the message that we have? Wow, all of these synchronicities. You have felt stuck. Maybe you feel like the things you've done in the past don't work, with the Eight of Swords in the past influence. But oftentimes when this card comes up, there is a message of you're not as stuck as you think you are. The swords represent the mind, so this kind of speaks to the mind's tendency to almost get into a sort of tunnel vision. When you are in a difficult situation, when you feel stuck, it's harder to find evidence that you can get out of the situation you are in. And, you know, this is actually reminding me of an audiobook I was just listening to earlier today and last night. I am listening to The Source by Tara Swart. And one of the things that she talks about, she's a neuroscientist who kind of examines the law of attraction from a cognitive, scientific perspective. She was talking about how our brains are about 2.5 times more wired to avoid risk, to avoid taking opportunities or chances than to play it safe and to avoid taking risk. So, or to take a risk, rather. So it seems like there is something here where you're feeling kind of stuck. And the card that came after this is the Fool. This is sort of the advice. This is what you've learned from the past. You know you need to just take a leap of faith. And it might not make a whole lot of sense. And even when I was telling my story at the beginning, it's like, I don't think I'm telling this right. I don't know if this is making all the sense to people. I don't even know if it would make sense if I gave you every bit of information, because there was just something about that divine interaction where it felt like it loosened me enough to trust, to take a leap of faith, to move forward, and to get myself out of a situation. And so it feels like, regardless of why you feel stuck or feel trapped, there could be very real reasons why. You know, I'm not sitting here and saying it's all in your head. There could have been setbacks. There could have been blockages in your life that you couldn't really control. But I am now getting the message that it's important that you open your perspective. You come into this with the beginner's mind, which is also how I read the Fool sometimes. But it is also taking a leap of faith. You kind of just have to trust the fall. Take the leap of faith, Aquarius. And the card in the present that I have for you is the Ace of Wands. So I feel like some of you are actually spiritual workers yourself. You work in the element of spirit, or you are otherwise creative, or have some sort of passion that you want to follow, but you've been afraid to. Maybe you've even convinced yourself not to do something that you really care about or that really excites you. But I feel like there is a divine calling, okay, to move forward. Looking at the bottom of the deck, I see Temperance. This is one of the cards that depicts an angel. I actually want to double check, because what angel is Temperance? I want to say it is it Raphael? Maybe it's not a named angel. Who is the angel in Temperance? Interesting. Michael, the archangel, is sometimes who is said to be depicted in the Temperance card here, which makes sense with those fiery wings. That is my birth name, so that's quite interesting. And also have a little story about that. I'll shuffle the cards while I continue. I was named after Michael the Archangel because both of my parents had an experience where they felt like they were almost driven off a bridge. They almost got into a horrible car accident. And later that night, they woke up at the same time And they both just kind of looked at each other and they were like, Archangel Michael is here right now and protected us earlier. And so that's how I got my name. So Archangel Michael is very strong in my life and feels like it is coming through in these readings. And I think is bringing in people you can collaborate with. There are opportunities for collaboration, or there are resources that are coming together with this Three of Pentacles. And Temperance really does also indicate something that takes time. There is an alchemical process that is taking place. And so maybe you've been working towards something or manifesting something and it's taken longer than you anticipated. And that could also be part of why you are feeling some sort of doubt. And it's almost like when you give up, when you just sort of fall back and trust with the Fool, that is when something will catch you. So you kind of have to like let go and let God a little bit here. Very, very interesting. What are the messages for Aquarius? Yeah, we have Death in reverse. And this is a challenge. There is an old way of being that you are having a hard time letting go of. And boy, do I understand that. Because again, before I started this work, I was living on the other side of the country and I did not want to come back home. I was avoiding it. But I kind of knew I was being called back here to start this work for whatever reason. There was just something here that was activating me. And so it does feel like there's some life that you are meant to let go of. There's some chapter. Maybe there's some relationships as well. And that actually might be part of why on some subconscious level you're afraid to progress. Because on some level, you might think, whether this is true or not, it will come at the expense of old relationships or old situations that once kept you safe or felt connected to you. It's kind of like letting go of the familiar and embracing the new. And this actually feels like for some of you, this really could be about identity. Maybe you spent your whole life, I don't know, like being a carpenter or something, and you're being called to go in a different direction, but you've spent all of this money, all of this time, all of this energy into building your skills, into developing your skills, and now you want to be like a writer or something, like do something totally different. And it's that trust of letting go that's really important. You didn't waste your time either. It's just that chapter has ended. It was only meant to be a chapter. And there's something new here. There's something bigger I'm feeling. And you do need to step into the unknown with the moon. And you know, to reference the astrology, but this is going to be true until 2044. So basically, whenever you're watching this, it's very likely that we still have Pluto in your sign. And having Aquarius placements, whether that's your sun, moon, or especially rising, where Pluto is, there's definitely a rebirth, a transformation. There is stepping into the unknown and letting go of an old version of yourself. And there's this calling, you know? Sometimes when I see the moon, it feels like a confusion. It feels like an uncertainty, but I am not getting it from this reading, from this particular pull. I see the moon. I see this almost primal, instinctual, ineffable calling. And you are kind of wandering through the dark forest, wandering through the swamp. It may feel murky and mucky. It may be hard to move forward, but there is a guiding light that is seeing you through, that is showing you the way. And it is important that you are trusting that. And at the bottom of the deck, I see the Eight of Swords, or I'm sorry, the Eight of Cups, which is all about leaving a situation behind. You have to let go of the old to bring in this new beginning that you've been desiring, Aquarius. And I really feel like there's something quite personal about letting go of this old chapter. Definitely let us know in the comments down below how you might have identified with something that you are now feeling like it might be time to let go of. Because I think you're supposed to become something different, something more. You're expanding again. and you are going into the high priestess. So following your intuition, following this calling. And honestly, when I was talking about like a change in vocation or calling, it really did feel like it was quite spiritual in nature. I almost wanted to call you a spiritual teacher or a mentor or a guide. You are very much meant to work in this sort of spiritual realm, or at least bring back from the spiritual realm in whatever it is that you're being called to do. You have to listen to your intuition. You really, really do. And like, I know that sounds like a super cliche message, but it's like, I see it. It's scary. It feels really, really scary right now, Aquarius, especially if you've kind of just been on a life raft for a little while, which I'm sort of getting for some of you. You are being called to move and go in a different direction. And for some of you, this could quite literally be moving. You know, I talked about that at the beginning. You might be moving to a different part of the country or to another country entirely. You might be called to go to a different part of the world. There is something that is guiding you right now, and it might not make a whole lot of sense. And it didn't make sense to me until 2020 why I was being called to go where I ended up. And I really became a very involved with the activist community here. And it was like, I wouldn't have changed this at all. This is exactly why I'm here. You know, I'm here with a lot of Black Lives Matter activists. And that was just like a deeply rooting kind of time for me. And so you are being called somewhere where you are likely going to have very deep roots in. And you might be very surprised with how or why that takes place in the way it does. I really feel like this is the message, but is there anything else that Aquarius should be aware of at this time? You've been manifesting this for a really long time, and like, it's here, but you need to like open the door. You need to take the chance. You need to take the risk. There will be abundance for you as well, more abundance than you have ever known with the Nine of Pentacles. So if you're feeling stuck in a job because it feels secure, there is even greater security. I do get that sense for you. Or, you know, this doesn't necessarily have to be material. Maybe some of you are very calculatingly realizing money is not the only resource that matters. Abundance takes many forms. I can be abundant in many different ways. Some of you, I'm sort of getting a vision of literally downsizing homes, like almost moving into like a tiny home or a little cottage. And that feels more more of a calling for you, and you're able to save resources and live expending less resources. That might be the direction for some of you, not for all of you. But I feel like your needs are going to be taken care of. Your needs will be taken care of maybe in ways that even surprise you. And I know right now, financially, things are really uncertain for a lot of people. But I feel like there is this abundance. And it's in so many different forms. It feels very warm, actually. I also feel like it's important that some of you learn or develop a healing modality. I mean, I'm hearing healer. So whether that's like herbalism, body work, energy work, that feels like it's going to kind of be part of your utility belt of things. So if that's something that you've been considering for some time or like diving into or expanding upon, I would really encourage you to do that. Anything else for Aquarius? Yeah, Page of Pentacles, new ventures, learning new skills. But oftentimes with the Page of Pentacles, there is kind of this self-consciousness, this self-doubt, but you're actually more skilled and more talented than you realize. And you might not even know it until you start doing something. And then you realize, oh, wow, actually, I do have a knack for energy work, or I do have artistic talent, or I am actually really intuitive. It's like you don't know until you try, almost. Wow. Is there anything else? I do see Justice at the bottom of the deck. And so again, kind of drawing from my own personal life, because I think there's a synchronicity in everything. There's a reason you're drawn to this video. You're drawn to my particular message and voice. There could be a social justice thing that you are stepping up into as well. And that is definitely a theme with Pluto in your sign for the next 20 years. The last time it was there was during the American and French Revolution, and before that was the Renaissance. So there's very profound paradigm shifts that are happening through your zodiac sign on the collective level. And I do feel like some of you may quite literally be doing something with social justice. Otherwise, this is just a card of cause and effect. Doing little actions each day to get the outcome that you want can be very, very beneficial for you. And there's something that is going to kind of be like a karmic balancing or reset almost, or not even reset. It's like whatever you have been working towards, it's like about to pay off. Whatever you've been ignoring might kind of have a consequence too. So this is sort of a period of like, I guess, karma, for lack of a better word. I'm feeling too, some of you have let go of a relationship, like a lover. It feels like this was something that felt quite spiritual, actually. Maybe you thought it was like a twin flame or soulmate or something. I don't really talk about those terms too much because I think they can kind of breed toxicity really easily. I have the Empress. Know your worth. Whoever hurt your self-esteem, whoever didn't see your beauty, just wasn't right for you. And that might be really hard to hear. But I do feel like with the Empress, you have options. In love, you have options. For work, you have options. Play hard to get a little bit, actually. Just with life in general. Interesting. And I do feel like some of you are just sort of going through a glow up. Maybe you're changing a beauty regimen, or you're adding to something, or you're just glowing and it's attracting people to you. That is also just something I'm getting. And my God, I'm literally feeling heat as I am talking about that. You're feeling better in your skin than you ever have before. And that's something that your spirit team wants for you, is to feel more embodied. Because I feel like you've been very stuck in your head, very stuck in autopilot, and it's time to ground yourself. So spend time in nature. Do activities that feel very grounding to you. Maybe even work with kind of the lower chakras, like the root chakra, to feel more grounded. There's lots of different ways to do this. You can honestly Google search it. And I mean, I do energy work as well, if that's something that interests you. But yeah, I feel like grounding yourself is important. Knight of Pentacles. Just making steady progress towards your dreams, towards your goals. Don't get stuck. Okay? Don't. There is a difference between slow and steady and stagnating. I feel like some of you have mistaken stagnation as security and stability. But you are meant to move in a different direction and step towards that. And you're doing it with your magic. You're doing it with manifestation. Now really is the time for you to honestly do like manifestation or visualization, and act towards it. Don't just be totally passive about it. But I feel like you are embarking into something new, and there's a lot of potential opportunity around the corner here. And at the time of this recording, we do have Jupiter about to go into your 6th house of work, of routines, of habits. So you're about to change your life through adopting positive habits. And that's going to kind of be true from June 2025 to June 2026. So again, this could be true regardless of when you're watching, and there might be something that is kind of relevant to look back on. What were you doing during this time, or what were you thinking about? Or yeah, it could just be like you are getting the message whenever this finds you to make daily effort towards something. And we cut out right at the end there. So yeah, be sure to hit like and subscribe. claim in the comments down below what this new beginning is, what this leap of faith is, and support each other. Really give each other that positive energy, because I feel like you can really encourage and uplift each other right now as you're going through these radical shifts. Again, I do have links in the description of this video for personal readings and distance Reiki sessions, so if you'd like to work one-on-one with me, you can book that on my website, and I will see you all in the next video. I'm sending lots of love and blessings your way. Take care.